Welcome to part one of my interview with Ari Hunniford of Awkwardly Zen. Gotta tell you, I'm liking it. Welcome to Blue Lightning Healing Meditations. My name is Susie Parker Goins. I'm a channel, so I bring forward your guides so you can connect more easily with them, allowing you to have soul-deep conversations with them whenever you want. I'm also an energy healer, past life explorer, a teacher. My goal is to empower you by teaching you these techniques that you can use on your own. We work together to find and identify the blockages to your growth and release them, inviting you to explore your possibilities. I'm available for phone and virtual sessions. The best way to contact me is Susie, that's S-U-S-Y, Susie at BlueLightningHealing.com. Visit BlueLightningHealing.com for up-to-date information. Blessings. So cute. Welcome to Blue Lightning Healing Meditations. My name is Susie Parker Goins. I'm a channel, energy healer, and podcast host. And today I have with me the amazing Ari Hunniford. I met her over the internet, which doesn't sound sketchy anymore because that's how we have met so many people. Ari runs a group called Awkwardly Zen. I'm excited to have you here. If you could give me your information and let's start talking. This is going to be cool. I'm excited.
Well, me too. Thank you so much. Yeah, we started Awkwardly Zen almost exactly a year ago. We actually just celebrated our year anniversary yesterday and it blew up. And talking about that online side of things and meeting people online, I was joking about that at our celebration that I've always told my teenager, you can't really be friends with people you meet online. And I have had to eat my words for sure on that. This last year has taught me that is not true.
Well, it has definitely opened doors for me because, I know people now in Toronto and in Portland, and yeah, I'm just near Seattle, and Portland's all downhill from there if you look at the globe, and I should be able to drive it, but so yeah, it's really opened the door on meeting people in different places.
Well, and Awkwardly Zen, it started as a safe place for people to explore their spiritual path. And we started online because we started in the middle of COVID, and we were based here in Denver because on meetup.com, which is where we started, you have to pick an area. And so we started in Denver, but pretty quickly we realized that if we were going to jump to other areas, this was the time to do it because people were looking for connection. So many people finding us in Denver from other areas. Pretty quickly, we started expanding into other locations. And now we're in 10 different locations and we're about to start our 11th. Basically, all that means is that you can find us in your time zone, which is really important. But also, we are now starting to do in-person events. Yeah, it's very exciting. As a matter of fact, I'll be in Seattle at some point this year. I haven't figured out when yet.
Sweet!
Yeah, I'm excited about it. But, we started as a spot because I had this amazing group of friends that as I was started down my spiritual path, I could talk to them about all the weirdness that happens. And you're nodding right now because it's so true. And I'm sure your listeners are. If you don't have someone you can say, hey, this really weird thing happened when I was meditating, it's a little bit lonely. As I found my voice on my own path and with my friends, I realized that a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah, to be able to say something like, oh yeah, I was talking to my dog the other day, or I saw this image, or this thing came to me, and to have somebody say, that's not weird, this happened to me, and to create that connection, it's like a whole new window opens up and you think, I'm not crazy.
Well, and when you open up to that and you don't feel like you're crazy, I feel like it allows you to open up in a broader way. I mean, one door opens another to another. And when you're not trying to hide, it definitely can increase the volume of those experiences that you have, which to me was such a fun thing. Like it was such an adventure.
Yeah, it's fun. I think it is really fun. There are times I've come out of a session, the client looks at me, it's like, I didn't know you could do that. It's like, neither did I.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Let's roll with it.
During this year, that was me too. I started doing readings for people. And at the end of multiple readings, it's like, that's never happened before. That's a great adventure.
I like it when there's that openness and accepting it. I've spent a lot of time going, no, 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 this is crazy. But actually, as soon as we moved up here, that I started to explore that aspect of my experience, and it just drew all of these amazing people to me. And now, like you've said, with the pandemic and being online so much, it's creating a greater net. This energy grid is spreading all over.
Well, yeah. And I think for us, one of our main events that we do, we have 5 what's called Zen Zooms a week. And that is just an open conversation about spirituality. It's different every time. We have a moderator who guides the entire event. And so everyone comes in and we ground, and then everyone says, here's what's going on with me spiritually right now. And then the moderator guides the conversation through that. And people take turns talking about that or helping each other out or saying, hey, this happened to me too. That collaboration of ideas and also that not feeling like you are completely alone has made such a big difference. But I think it was more important than ever during this last year because there were a lot of people who were going through major transitions in friendships with the awareness of who people actually are. And so a lot of people had to walk away from people who had been friends with them for their entire lives or who they thought were on the same page as them. But during the pandemic and during BLM and during all of these major issues, had to say, is this really what I want in my life? And it was so nice to be able to create a safe space for people to say, I don't have anyone to talk to about my spiritual journey. And I certainly can't talk to this friend over here because I'm all of a sudden realizing that they're kind of a jerk. And we'd be like, hey, come on over. Let's have a conversation. I mean, our number one rule in Awkwardly Zen is there's no right or wrong, right? Like you can believe what you want, but you have to hold space for other people to have different beliefs and have respect for that. It's really worked well for us because if you don't respect somebody else, I mean, one person might believe in dragons and the next person might not be at that spot yet, but that's okay. You don't have to. The spiritual path is super vast. Like we don't have to agree on everything. And I think that's something that gets lost sometimes in the spiritual world.
Yeah, I encourage people to open up to their gifts because when you look at it, if you're looking at it at source or divine, there's such an incredible spectrum of experience. I don't see that only one kind of, say, binary experience is all that source has in mind. There's so many things that we all can do. And I think we can all do it. It's just what's going to resonate with us.
Yeah, finding your little niche in the world, but then also not limiting yourself. I mean, I don't know how many readers I have experienced through this last year who they come in and they say, I'm a tarot reader. And then I'll do a reading with them or trade readings or experience that. And immediately I'm hearing from their guide saying, you're not quite just a tarot reader. Not that there's anything wrong with just being a tarot reader, but when you can feel that person's talents coming through, and you can feel that I don't want to limit myself. I don't want other people to limit themselves. So it is, I think you're right. Like the vastness of it and the amazing different things that you can learn about, it can be completely overwhelming. So it's easy to put our human, let me find my one spot that I belong. So far in my experience, the more I don't do that to myself, the more I all of a sudden go, oh, well, I didn't know I could see that kind of image. And okay, well, I hear that now. And we hear that all the time in our meetups is people coming in going, I've been pulling cards for myself for years, but I started pulling cards for my friends. And now all of a sudden I can like hear their guides and I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do. And all the rest of us are going, yay, that's so awesome.
You're still connecting with guides and hearing it, but it's a means by which you can convey more information. But to realize that people say, I want to channel like you do, Susie. It's like, no, I got a theater degree, so I know how to present characters in such a way. It's still, you have one too?
That's I have a degree in theater, acting and directing.
Okay.
That's why we're so connected, Susie.
I like it. Theater kids. I know. And I spent some time thinking, oh, it can't be real because it's theater and I'm acting and everything. But there's a friend of mine who said, no. And I worked with my guides too. And they kept saying, this makes it easier for you to present, to physicalize the different energies.
I was just talking to we have a bunch of partner practitioners with Awkwardly Zen, and they're people who come in and teach and who actually become a part of our community. And it's one of the most magical parts about the community because you get to see these practitioners as they are as humans, because very often it's easy to put a practitioner up on a pedestal and go, oh my gosh, they're so amazing. And yeah, they are, because they are open to their gifts, but they're just like us, right? Everybody's the same. They put their pants on in the morning or they don't, it's up to them, you do. But they have these fears and they have these human things as well. And to be able to talk
Yeah.
that through with them has been so powerful. We were discussing this idea of broadening out. How do we communicate with people? How do we talk to people? How do we go through this whole process with one another and really help encourage people to be in their truth and who they are? That's not always an easy thing to do.
No. Frequently, you have a lot of programming that has been instilled in you, trying to figure out and trying to break through, and all those layers and layers. And yeah, so I totally get it. And to have an environment in which you can explore those.
And also to realize, and here's the big thing I love, our strongest partners, our ones who are like, they're just such an inspiration to all of us, are the ones who are constantly talking about how they are continuing to do the work. Because it's really easy as a practitioner to think because you're doing readings for other people that you don't need to do the work because you're so spiritual, right? You're constantly in this spiritual world. And the same thing when you run all these events like we do, it's really easy to go, well, yeah, I'm running 3 Zen Zooms a week, and I'm attending all 5. So I'm doing the work. And it's like, no, time out. To have that experience with the practitioners and listen to them and how they are doing the work. We have a podcast network on awkwardlyzen.com called AZ Media. And I met with the folks who are getting that started and who are making that happen. And they had this beautiful conversation about what it means to continue on your spiritual path, even when you've hit some of these milestones that other people might think, oh my gosh, you've made it. They know at their core that never happens, right? You never make it. You never are at this point. And that might be a controversial thing to say because there are those people out there, these gurus, these people who say, I know it all and you must listen to me. And I'm just like, to throw up a little in my mouth, to be honest with you.
No, I get it. For somebody who says, or I've seen practitioners who present their insight as fact, as ultimate, that's when I get really, really skeptical. And especially on Zoom, I work really hard to keep my game face on, which is that little smile. And there are times where I'm sure you can see recordings where I cock my head with that, really?
Got that like puppy dog thing going, wait. Yeah, me too. And it's funny, we actually even had to make a rule in Awkwardly Zen, or a guideline we call them, where it's that this isn't a teachable moment. This is my personal experience is not a you should do this, because it feels better when you hear other people's experiences and you get to make those choices for yourself. To me, for anyone to think that they have the right to come in and say, you should do this on your spiritual path is really tough for me, because it's your path. Like, I can't tell you what to do. Now, if I'm going to a instructor of something, if I'm going to Jason Analek and asking him about Akashic Records, I want him to tell me his beliefs. I want him to tell me what he is being guided to tell me. But in a group setting where we're all just sharing about all of our ideas and our love and all of that, to think for a minute that I know any more than anyone else is jarring to me. So that's a big thing with Awkwardly Zen, is this idea that we're all on the same playing field. It doesn't matter if you've been doing this for 40 years. Kendara, who is one of our original members, she's been doing psychic and I Ching and all sorts of things for over 40 years. And she still comes to every single one of these events with an open mind and is so excited when she learns something new, because there are always new things to learn.
I think so. That's part of my thoughts about life in general, is like, I got to keep learning. There are so many other people who have different experiences, and you say the word should, and that just gives me a visceral response. You should do this. And I'm like, whoa, no, I should. And that's exactly when I dig in my heels and go, make me, I'm not going to. I've got to do what resonates with me. And that's that, I keep saying vastness, that spectrum of experience that we humans manifest. I had an interview with my friend Mary McKinsey, and she made this statement to me that she was taught that as humans, we are eyes for divine. And that when we look through this as human eyes, that's where the judgment comes in. It was far more eloquent, and I don't remember the exact quote, but that's the thing. We are having that physical experience for spiritual beings, and we take that information back, and to think that we can learn everything in one lifetime. No, I don't think that happens.
In my belief system, we chose this too. Like, we chose to have these experiences. And so to limit ourselves to those, that's not what my path is this time around.
No.
And, I enjoy that so much. And I have to catch myself because I am by nature, I have a feeling you might be too, a problem solver. Like I like to fix things. And so it's very easy for me to fall into that mom mode of I'm going to fix, I'm going to take care of this. I've got this. And I've had to learn, especially over this last year, that it's not about me fixing anything. It's about people feeling safe to express themselves and to feel like for just a minute, nobody's going to look cross-eyed at them. Nobody's going to know you're wrong. And it's only been a handful of times that somebody has come into the group and done that. And immediately that's why we have a moderator. Like that person's job is to go, oh, time out. We don't do right and wrong here. And it's amazing because the whole group just goes, oh yeah. And then we keep going. And it's so amazing to be in a Zoom room full of like-minded people. And even if we have the most opposite points of view on certain things, we're still like-minded because we're coming together to be a strong core of people. And I don't know about you, but I feel like we're in this stage of our process where there's a lot more people coming out of the woodwork and paying attention to what's going on for us to be able to create safe havens for them to step into their light and step into what their path is. I just feel so blessed that I was handed this idea and that I got out of my own way to let it happen because I didn't feel like I had the right.
Oh, yeah, getting out of your own way. Oh, boy. I wish I had a pat answer for that one. How do I get out of my own way? I'll let you know when I figure it out too.
I have been saying to myself for the last year, it's none of my business. It's none of my business. I have very clear things that have come to me about Awkwardly Zen. Awkwardly Zen itself came to me in a meditation, and I was like, I can't run a spiritual community. I'm too new on my path. Why would anyone listen to me? Well, then I had to get out of my own way and realize it wasn't about me. They're not listening to me. They're listening to each other. And I didn't know how we were going to get a website. And I said, I don't know. It'll work out. I told my husband, who's a tech guy, hey, this is the website I want for Awkwardly Zen. And he said, you can't have that. And I went, what? And he said, it's going to be too expensive and all these different excuses and why we can't. He's a little more human brain than I am. And I said, well, if it's only money, we'll figure that out. Like, it's none of my business how it's going to happen. Well, come to find out what we wanted and what we wanted to create wasn't that much money. We just needed to have the person with the right information. And as a volunteer popped up and said, hey, I got it for you, and made the website and designed the website, and it looked exactly like what I drew that I had seen in a meditation months before. And I never showed her that. So talk about like synchronicities and these things. And so as that's happening, it's been real easy for me to be like, I don't know. I have no idea. I can see the vision of what's coming. It's none of my business how it happens. I'm just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And as things come to me, I'll do the work. I'll come do a podcast with Susie so new people can find us on Awkwardly Zen. It's been such an amazing process. And I am not a get out of my own way person. I shouldn't say that. That's not speaking my truth anymore. I was not a get out of my own way person. I am becoming that through this process. And it is so much more fun.
It is. I know I get spun around the axle about trusting what divine has got to be. And the key phrase for me has been divine alignment. Whatever's in divine alignment. And I understand that divine timing is frequently not the same as human timing. I've learned to kind of step back. And true, this past year has given me that opportunity to go, not my problem.
Totally. When I got that first download about Awkwardly Zen, on the very bottom, I wrote everything out that happened in the meditation. And on the very bottom, I wrote greatest good. And that's been our theme since the beginning, is what is for the greatest good? Or I trust that this is for the greatest good. With that intention in mind and doing that, it's been easy to weed out the things that are not for our greatest good, right? And I'm so grateful to COVID, which is such a weird thing to say, but I'm so grateful because it allowed me to step out of my day-to-day crazy busy mindset. Like I used to have this idea that if I wasn't crazy busy, then I wasn't doing enough. Yeah, I'm real over that now. Like I had this opportunity to step back from that and to just be for a minute. And, you hear all of these people say, oh, you just need to be. And I used to be one of those people who was like, F off. Like I can't just be. And then I just sat and I was able to connect with nature in a way that I never had before. And I was able, like one of the things I always talk about, because it was my favorite moment of all of COVID, was sitting outside and realizing that some leaves are sparkly and some leaves are dull. And I had never in my life noticed that, but certain leaves sparkle when the sun hits them and certain leaves don't. And I never ever noticed it. And so it was this connection with earth that I didn't have before. And my realization that I don't pay attention. I was so busy trying to get things done and to accomplish and to do that I didn't see the beauty in every little moment.
Yeah.
And that was a blessing for me and what had to happen so that I could get out of my own way. So I'm
Okay.
grateful for that.
Yeah. If it hadn't have been for COVID, I wouldn't be here talking to people that I've met and exploring all of this stuff. The podcast started in April 2020. So it's been over a year and a half. Like I wouldn't have done this and explored all of these different topics and tapped into that other aspect of what I can do and channeling over Zoom. Wow, who'd have thunk?
Seriously.
I know. And also, my moment has been my family. We all live in the same house. My adult children are here, and I'm here, and my husband's here. And I've gotten to realize how cool they are, how much I enjoy their company. We all have our separate rooms, but then when we come in, we're invariably having a good time and talking. And it's been really reassuring for me. Somebody pointed out how they envied what we had going. And I'm like, oh, geez, there are times, with 5 of us in the house, I would like to have that alone time. I was able to take that time to listen and to hear what was going on. So I was like, oh, okay. So it
Well,
is all perspective that's enhanced.
and to find that gratitude, right?
Huh?
I think that was a huge thing for me this last year. And actually, one of our members, her name is Kitty, she introduced us to the concept of radical gratitude. Kitty Jean, I should say. Let me make sure I say it right. And to her, what radical gratitude means is that in any moment, there are so many things to be grateful for, right? So like how I explain it is I love Sharpies, like they're my favorite. So you give me a new Sharpie, I'm like a cat and with a new catnip toy. But if I can pick up a Sharpie and I can look at it and I can think how many people had to go into making that Sharpie for me, right? That marker. So somebody had to create that color. Somebody had to figure out how to make the machines to make it. Somebody had to create the ink that writes Sharpie on it. Somebody else did the packaging, like thousands and thousands of people. And even more than that, when you think about the families that had to create them and all of that went into creating this little bit of joy that I get to hold in my hands. And so my gratitude can go from something where it's like, oh, yay, I like Sharpies. Woohoo. I'm grateful I got a new Sharpie to look at how much had to go into getting me this Sharpie. Like, talk about divine oneness. All of these things
Yeah.
to create this one little thing of joy. And so when I'm in my moments where I'm not feeling my absolute best, I try to go back to that spot and like look at a shelf and go, okay, the nail that's holding that up. And it's such a fascinating thing to realize how many blessings we have and how many people are involved with that all over the world. And so that's been a huge, huge thing for me during all of this too, is how do I find that gratitude and sit in that gratitude, which is another way to get out of your own way, because being in the moment and being happy with what you have is not always easy. And believe me, I want more. I like the idea of more. I want to go on the vacations and do all the things, but I was able to sit in what I had and really just love it, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. Gratitude. I spend a lot of time with the gratitude. What we do before dinner, we will say our gratefuls. So we don't say grace over food. That's the holdback from my husband and I are recovering Catholics. So we don't do that anymore. We will all take a minute to say what we're grateful for in the day. And I work to have at least 3 things to be grateful for. And it always ends with, and I love you all very much. It's just something, even on the poopy days, when you just go, okay, and it's pulling you out of that. And then looking at a single item, that's given me a lot to think about. I used to pay bills. Well, not used to. When I pay bills.
Okay, you should probably still do that.
I think so. Yeah. Okay, fine. So when I was paying bills, when I was at that point of feeling like we had some lack going, we didn't have enough money, I remember it's like, okay, when I pay this bill, there are people whose salary we're paying, and I'm grateful to have this commodity that I am paying for, whether it's electricity or water or groceries or whatever. And then the money does go to help these people live their lives and have their homes. And so the Sharpie, I like the Sharpie concept. I think there's going to be a pithy name that we come up with
Well,
as a result
and
of
it
your.
could be anything. I mean, for whoever doesn't
Yeah.
love their Sharpies, which I mean, what's wrong with you? But whoever doesn't have that, like that school supply thing that I have, can definitely find whatever. And, in her situation, she was talking about how she was ill and how she couldn't talk. She couldn't communicate. She couldn't anything. All she could see was the drip dropping down in her IV. And she just started saying, thank you with every drip. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. When you hear these stories, like that's my life. I'm surrounded by these stories where these beautiful people come in and they share these bits of insight, and to watch a whole room of people go, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. And that's life changing. It's so gorgeous to watch that happen. And it's really easy to stay in gratitude when you get to spend every day with all of these amazing people who really want to do better and be there for one another. And we didn't have that in the same way. And I think there's a lot of groups like ours out there. There's a lot of places to find that community. I'm going to be speaking at the Athena Festival here in Denver in November about that. How do you find your spiritual community? Because it's easy when you are a religion, right? I shouldn't say that. I know it's hard to find the right church and the right fit and all of that, but you have specific places where people go. But the spiritual world is so different because it's so vast. And somebody who wants to go and explore being a witch or doing things like that, it's a totally different person who might want to go explore meditation. It is so spread out right now. And I think that's what our goal is with Awkwardly Zen, is to create a place where you can find whatever it is, whatever niche. Like on awkwardlyzen.com, we have 50 some groups where you can say, hey, I want to learn about energy healing, or ask a question, or share my wisdom, or I want to talk about dragons or fairies. A big one for me was Sasquatch. Like when I first started, it's not that I don't believe in Sasquatch. It's that my human brain was like, what? Okay. All right. Now, Source has a great sense of humor, and there's been lots of interaction with a variety of things with Sasquatch. I see them everywhere now in my life. Before that, as something that I was embracing and going, why not? That's my big answer to the whole spiritual thing.
Exactly. Why not? Yeah, I've called myself a why notian too.
Right, because there's so many things we don't know. And if anything, the spiritual path shows you that on a daily basis if you're doing the work, like daily basis, where I'm like, that, okay, I can't ignore this synchronicity 80th time.
Yeah, hearkening back to what you've been talking about, I get a very happy sense that there's no comparison there. So you're talking about the woman who was saying thank you to the IV. I mean, I had a cancer experience. Somebody once tried to talk me into loving the cancer. It's like, let me tell you how I'm approaching this. And so I can be grateful for the things surrounding it and all the lessons there. And I'm still here. And so great, all fine and dandy. And then a friend of mine in Florida had some melanoma in his nose. And he said, oh, it's not as bad as Susie. And I went, nope, this is your experience. And I'm not taking away from it. And I do all the energy sending and all that. So having a space where there's not competition, I feel that we can all work to be better, but that whole comparison complete with hair flips and like, that sort of thing, that hand sign that people do with the palm out. You're like, no.
Yeah.
So being on a level playing field, I love that idea to have that. I'm already tearing up because I'm so excited for this concept, having such a healthy opportunity, a healthy life.
That's our goal, is because it's somebody could be in the middle of cancer and be handling it in a way that's magical, and it's amazing, right? Like, good for them, and they're doing it in this way, but that doesn't mean somebody else needs to do it that way. And the same thing in spirituality. Like, we talk about that all the time. Meditation's a perfect example. Meditating is something that comes pretty naturally to me. I'm blessed with it. I can do it. I do it every day. I have a counter to make sure that I do it every day. Like, that's how I make sure I do. That doesn't mean that it's going to be easy for somebody else, or that they need to meditate in the same way I do. There's a billion different ways to meditate.
Yeah.
And the pressure that we put on ourselves to be like other people. And in this society, like our online community, and we try to call it an online community, not a social media, because we don't want it to be a social media. We want it to be a community where we can support and interact and love on one another, not try to show how much better we are than everyone else.
Right.
Like I always say, if you're looking for an Instagram model who's going to tell you how to be Zen, we are not your people. We are not your people. Right. You're going to hear from me how one day I'm feeling real good and I had this amazing meditation, and the next day I crawled into bed for 3 hours because I just couldn't. That's what we're trying to do, is be our real selves, not try to be shiny. Sometimes we're shiny and sometimes we're stuck in the muck, and both things are okay.
It's all valid. It's all part of the experience. Yeah, I try to meditate and then I wake up 2 hours later. I've done those consciousness raising groups, and there was one where my head fell back and I was snoring like grandpa after Thanksgiving. And yeah, that's not conducive, but that's me getting out of the way. But to understand and to encourage people to do it in the way that works for them, that's really important. I don't think there's one single way to do it.
No. And it's hard. And again, that comparison can be a doozy on the other side too, right? Like
Yeah.
I want to celebrate myself and the milestones that I hit. So I do, because why not? Like, we don't celebrate ourselves enough. We spend a whole lot of time telling ourselves how unworthy we are and how awful we are and how bad we are, but we don't celebrate the little wins on a day-to-day basis. But what I've learned is when I celebrate those wins, somebody who might not be in that headspace sometimes will look at that and compare. I try to make sure that, especially within the group, that we do that, where it's, yes, today I'm celebrating this because 2 days ago, this is what happened. And we do that a lot. We do what's called a hand waggle because we're all on mute. We'll throw our hands up when we're in agreement and give them a shake. It's like the sign language applause.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And it helps because when somebody's talking and they say, you know what, I just felt really weird because I had this like vibration and I got this ringing in my ear and I just feel really, and half the room's hand goes up and starts shaking because they've had a similar experience. You go, oh, I can keep talking. And let me tell you, and then you dig in deeper, you tell your truth. But because of those kind of things, and because of that way to do that, we will share in these groups sometimes when it is awful. And you'll see those hands go up for that as well, where they're like, I can't meditate and it's making me crazy because Ari meditates all the time and she's doing really great. And I want to do that like Ari. And then I'll pop in and be like, dude, don't compare yourself because I've meditated every day, but probably only half of those times I've really felt connected. And of those times, only this time, so it's a really cool way to just not worry about not being perfect.
Here's where I'm going to put a break in the interview. We talk a lot longer, and I'll upload that next week. So tune in Monday for a meditation relating to what we're talking about. Until next time, blessings.